Imagine the perfect art crime. Not a daring heist with lasers and alarms, but something far more subtle. A crime of creation, not theft. A forgery so brilliant it hangs in the world's most prestigious galleries, fooling experts, collectors, and even the Louvre itself. This isn't a movie plot. It's the true story of one of the biggest art scandals of the 21st century, a tale that begins not with a broken window, but with a collection of breathtaking, lost masterpieces. It all started with a man named Giuliano Ruffini, an enigmatic Italian collector living in France. Ruffini wasn't a well-known figure in the high-stakes art world, but starting in the 1990s, he began to unearth an astonishing array of artworks. These weren't just any old paintings. They were previously unknown works attributed to the giants of art history, the Old Masters. Suddenly, a stunning Venus by Lucas Cranach the Elder appeared, a piece so exquisite it seemed to glow. Then came a charismatic portrait of a man, believed to be by the Dutch master Frans Hals. There was a painting attributed to the Baroque genius Orazio Gentileschi, and another to the Dutch painter Dirk van Barbaren. Each painting was a revelation, a missing piece of art history miraculously found, and each came with a story, a detailed and convincing provenance. Ruffini claimed they came from the collection of a French family who wanted to remain anonymous. The stories were just plausible enough, tracing the paintings through obscure historical records and private hands, explaining why they had been hidden from public view for centuries. The art world was mesmerized. These weren't just paintings. They were treasures. One by one, they were authenticated by leading experts, sold for millions, and celebrated in exhibitions. The Venus was even displayed at a major show in the south of France, becoming a star attraction. For a time, it seemed like the art historical find of a lifetime. But then, the perfect picture began to crack. In 2014, an anonymous letter arrived at the French authorities. The letter made a shocking claim. The celebrated Cranach Venus was a modern fake. This wasn't just a whisper of doubt. It was a direct accusation that set off a chain reaction. The French justice system, not known for taking art world rumors lightly, launched a preliminary inquiry. The investigation was handed to a tenacious Parisian judge named Aude Barresi. Her first move was dramatic. In the middle of the prestigious exhibition, French police descended and seized the Venus. The painting, once hailed as a masterpiece, was now evidence in a criminal investigation. The news sent shockwaves through the art market. If the Cranach was a fake, what about the others? The Frans Hals? The Gentileschi? The entire Ruffini collection was suddenly under a cloud of suspicion. The stage was set for a scientific showdown that would take place in a high-tech lab hidden beneath the most famous museum in the world. The seized paintings were taken to a place where art meets science, the Center for Research and Restoration of the Museums of France, or C2RMF, located in the basement of the Louvre. Here, a team of scientists, art historians, and conservators began to dissect the artworks, not with brushes, but with electron microscopes, X-rays, and chemical analysis. They were looking for anachronisms, tiny clues that would betray the painting's true age. The process was like a forensic investigation on a centuries-old crime scene. They analyzed the pigments used. Old masters ground their own paints from minerals, plants, and insects. Forgers often use modern synthetic pigments that didn't exist in the 16th or 17th centuries. And that's exactly what the scientists found. Deep within the layers of the Frans Hals portrait, they discovered phthalocyanin green, a synthetic pigment invented in the 1930s. Impossible for a 17th century painting. They examined the canvas and the wooden panels. Using techniques like dendrochronology, which dates wood by its tree rings, they found that the panel for the Venus was from a tree felled long after Cranach had died. They even analyzed the chemical composition of the white paint. The lead white in the masterpieces had isotopic ratios that matched lead mined in the modern era, not from historical European sites. The scientific evidence was overwhelming and irrefutable. These weren't restorations or copies. They were modern forgeries, meticulously crafted to deceive. The artists may have been dead for centuries, but these paintings were fresh off the easel. With the science pointing to a massive fraud, Judge Barresi's investigation turned to the human network behind it. Who had the skill to create such convincing fakes? And how did they infiltrate the highest levels of the art market? The investigation unraveled a complex web of deceit stretching across Europe. At the center of this web, investigators alleged, was a talented but little-known artist named Lino Frongia. A friend of Ruffini, Frongia was a painter who specialized in restoring and emulating the style of the old masters. Investigators suspected he was the maestro, the hand that actually painted the forgeries. The technique was genius. He would find genuine but unremarkable old paintings from the correct period and scrape off the original image, leaving a genuinely old canvas or panel. Then, using historically plausible materials mixed with a few modern binders for stability, he would paint a new old master on the old surface. This method created a forgery that had the authentic feel and crackle of age, fooling even seasoned experts who examined the surface. Ruffini, the man who discovered the works, was the front man. He and his son were the ones who presented the paintings to the art world, armed with their elaborate but ultimately fictional backstories. They worked with dealers and experts, some of whom may have been complicit, while others were simply duped by the sheer quality of the fakes and the allure of a great discovery. Auction houses like Sotheby's were fooled, selling the Frans Hals portrait for millions. Museums, private collectors, and even the Prince of Liechtenstein bought into the deception. The Louvre itself had declared one of the paintings a national treasure to prevent it from leaving France. The network had successfully laundered their fakes through the most trusted institutions in the art world, turning their creations into legitimate, multi-million-dollar assets. The fallout from the scandal was immense. The art market, which runs on trust and authenticity, was deeply shaken. How could so many top experts be wrong? It sparked a crisis of confidence. Lawsuits flew back and forth. Sotheby's sued the seller of the Frans Hals to reclaim the money. Collectors who had spent millions on fakes were left with worthless canvases and a great deal of embarrassment. The legal case against Ruffini and his alleged accomplices has been a long and complex affair, tangled in the intricacies of international law. Ruffini himself has always maintained his innocence, claiming he too was a victim, a passionate collector who bought the paintings in good faith. He argues that the debate over their authenticity is simply a disagreement among experts. But the legacy of the Ruffini affair goes beyond the courtroom. It forces us to ask fundamental questions about art itself. If a forgery is so good that it brings joy and aesthetic pleasure to thousands of people, does its value disappear the moment we learn it's a fake? What are we really paying for when we buy art? Is it the brushstroke, the history, or simply the signature at the bottom? The scandal highlights the fragile line between a priceless masterpiece and a perfect deception. It's a modern parable about authenticity, greed, and the seductive power of a story that is just too good to be true. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. See you next time.